Hello everybody and welcome to the Macomb Township Varsity Boys Basketball Mac Red Preview Show for 2017-2018. I'm Jason Burnt along with Brad Fetters, and in this program we will give you a sneak peek at 4 local schools in and around Macomb Township and get you ready for the upcoming season. We're also going to go through all of the schedules so you can prepare for those big games coming up this year. And Brad, when we take a look at the Mac Red, there's no changes for this year. Every 2 years, there's usually realignment, but this year, the Mac Red will remain the same. It's the 4 mainstays, Dakota, L'Anse Creuse North, Chippewa Valley, and Eisenhower. And they're joined once again by Stevenson and Grosse Pointe South. And, you know, those 2 teams that jumped up to the Red, they kind of held their own last year, finishing 2nd and 3rd in the league.
Yeah, their first year in the Mac Red for both of those teams, Sterling Heights, Stevenson, and Grosse Pointe South. They finished 5-5. Grosse Pointe South making that biggest jump after competing in the Mac Blue 2 seasons ago. But they were a team that won back-to-back Mac Blue champions and really fit well in the mix in the Mac Red. As for Sterling Heights Stevenson, another team that ends up going 500 in Mac Red play after having gone perfect the previous 2 seasons in the Mac White, earning that new spot in the Mac Red.
Yeah, we'll briefly talk about them. Of course, not local teams for us here in Macomb Township, so we didn't get a chance to cover them. But we will look at our other 4 teams, and we'll talk about the Red quite extensively here in this program. So, all right, we start things off with the defending Mac Red champs from a year ago, the Dakota Cougars. Coming off a 20-4 season a year ago and another league championship, they addressed this team after some big changes. They hope with some of the talent they have returning can help them defend that title.
We're young, energetic, we had enthusiasm. They all want to learn. They're all been here in the entire off season, working their tails off to hopefully have a great season. So we're excited. We're excited for a new season. We've had some success. Large part of that was, Jermaine Jackson. And not having a guy like Jermaine is going to be an adjustment. But, a guy like Jermaine who left us, but he left us with a lot. He taught these young guys. These guards on this team last year had to cover them in practice, got a chance to watch them play, got a chance to play with them in practice. So these young guards that we have, that experience is invaluable to be up with us last year. Now, obviously we lost a lot in our senior class, and Jermaine and Jack and those guys, but like I said, this group of young men are really energetic and enthusiastic about what the opportunity they have now coming up for this season.
It's a lot of motivation because from last year we had a very good team, and we had a lot of seniors go away, which is it's a good opportunity for upcoming underclassmen that are playing a lot this year. It's going to be a big year for us.
My son Mark Toko is going to run the point for us. Him and Ryan Rollins will share that responsibility. Ryan's a freshman that we had on the varsity last year. He got a ton of minutes for a freshman, got in the rotation, which wasn't easy to do in the last couple of years, and he did that. And he actually got an offer this summer from Cleveland State, and he's plays high-level AU basketball. He's going to probably be our leader on the court as far as a scorer. And Mark, like I said, that experience that he got from Jermaine last year, playing against him and with him in practice, and got some minutes within the rotation, will definitely help both those guys. We have a young guard, Josh Hines, who's a freshman that he's come in, Coach's son. Coach Hines is our assistant coach, and he's been great. He's going to definitely be in the rotation for us. So I'd say our guard play is definitely our strength, along with LJ Hassel. LJ was a swing player for us last year, came off the bench. He's going to start for us this year. And Brian Sturkey, who actually got some minutes a little bit last year as well as a power forward type. Those guys look to be our main guys and our main contributors going into this young season.
We got to just keep going 110% in practice. You just got to go as hard as we can and be prepared for whatever comes for us.
We're still up tempo and hustle, and to stay humble in that, we just got to play as a team, and that nobody can stop us if we're just playing as a team.
Stop it! Somebody stop it! You win the Red Division, which in my opinion is the best division in Macomb County. You've done something, and that's our goal. Like I've said for the last 3 seasons, we go in. That's always the #1 thing we look at is trying to compete in the Red Division, and obviously teams like Stevenson, who have a lot of experience, who we've battled for the last couple of years. Teams like Chippewa. You have Eisenhower and Grosse Pointe South and L'Anse Creuse North. Great coaches, guys that have been doing it a long time, that I have a lot of respect for, and they have good players. So it's going to be a battle.
We got a lot of expectations. We haven't lost a Red game in a while. So, we just got to stick together as a team. We're really young. We got leaders on this team, so I think we'll be good.
we open up with UAD at Callahan Hall. It's not going to get much tougher than that as far as I'm concerned. So that'll prepare us, I think, going to UAD and playing at Callahan Hall, and then having to go out to New Haven and play the defending state champs and Romeo Weems and those guys and Tadero, who do a great job. That is going to put us at a certain, put us at a point where we understand what we have to do now to compete in the MAC Red. So the experience they get out of those 2 games in the preseason, hopefully it will be very good for us, and hopefully it will result in some good success for us in the MAC Red season.
All right, here's a look at Dakota's schedule. They begin on December 10th against U of D Jesuit, which will be played at Callahan Hall. Then home against Warren Mott on the 12th. Stretch of road games against New Haven, Grosse Pointe South, and Muskegon Mona Shores, which is part of the Motor City Roundball Classic, played at Detroit Renaissance. The new year opens up against rival Chippewa Valley on January 9th, then a road game against Ike on the 12th. The MAC Red grind continues with games against Stevenson, L'Anse Creuse North, and Grosse Pointe South on January 23rd. Second matchup with Chippewa Valley on the 26th, and Ike on the 30th. 2 more league games against Stevenson and LCN, followed by West Bloomfield on February 9th. The MAC tournament begins on the 15th, and they have 2 more non-league games to close out the regular season against Lakeshore and Roseville on March 1st. So Brad, when we talk about Dakota, kind of what they said there in the piece, losing the players that they lost for, that's really helped them dominate the last few years. Really a lot of question marks with Dakota. Can they kind of stay at the top of the MAC Red?
Well, Dakota had their big 3 in Jackson, Ballantyne, and Kithier. Obviously, some graduation and some transfers eliminates those 3 players. But Dakota just dominated last season. It was really impressive. We saw them a number of times within their MAC Red play, and they were teams that had no shot at beating Dakota as Dakota rolled through the MAC Red.
Yeah, and I think that's going to change. You lose that kind of talent. They got some kids and they got some pieces coming back, but not like they had before. I mean, last year going in, we said it several times throughout games that they were a perennial favorite maybe to make a run at a state championship last year. And they eventually lost to Clarkston, who went on to win that state title last year.
Yeah, it's almost a shame that those 2 teams had to hook up in the first round of regionals last season. You would have liked to maybe see them a little bit later on, but Clarkston, a team that gets now Thomas Kithier, and talking to a coach in Oakland County, he mentioned to me that Clarkston has basically 7 Division I recruits on their roster this season. So Clarkston's going to be the threat within the Division I this year in terms of MHSA playoffs. But Dakota, they bring back Mark Toko, one of the returning starters from last year, coming off a really good football season. Ryan Rollins is going to be a kid to really pay attention to. He's going to run the point guard position. He's already got an offer from Cleveland State, so a Division I team. So maybe not as much of a big drop-off for Dakota as one might think.
Yeah, and looking back at what you just said about Clarkston too, really you set goals throughout the year. When you got a team in the state like Clarkston that you might run into in a regional round, you're looking at MAC Red championships, maybe district championships before maybe it all comes to an end.
Yeah, you got to win your games in the MAC Red first, and this is a team that's coming off 34 straight MAC Red wins. Let's see how long they can continue that streak. We'll see.
We'll have to wait and see, as they say. Well, next up in our preview, the L'Anse Creuse North Crusaders. Last season, they finished with a 500 overall record. They have some returning players with experience, so they hope they can take the next step and challenge for the league.
A lot of experience back. I think that, we have about 8 guys that at some point or another have played in a varsity game. A lot of those guys have had extended minutes in varsity games. We have about 3 or 4 starters back, 3.5 probably, and I think when those things come into play and you can find a good mix of JV guys to come in and kind of earn their time and fit the rotation, good things can happen. So the experience part, I think we have. At this point, it's going to be finding our roles and developing that team chemistry that hopefully gets you in position to battle for a league title.
Dig that heel in on this week's step.
Unselfishness so far. When you have, potentially 3 different point guards that really want to include others and make sure others get involved first, when all 3 can really score, that's a good thing to have. I think our bigs pass really well out of the post. and they look for the perimeter guys, and our perimeter guys look for the bigs. So offensively, unselfishness so far to this point has been outstanding.
You guys got the 4 seniors and some returning starters. I mean, how much is that going to benefit you guys, having had that experience at the varsity level?
It's going to benefit us well because since going into playoffs, we know that experience. Me, Blake, and Tyreek, we've been there. So now we get to teach these young guys how to do it, and hopefully we can get far this year and make a run.
I feel like we're going to be a really good defensive team. I feel like we could push the ball really well, and I know we can score whenever we get a chance. I feel like we could be really strong this year. I'm pretty confident in our team right now.
We pride ourselves, always have here, and especially in the MAC Red, that you want to be able to bang, you want to be able to hold your own and defend everyone. And I think that this year, with like I said, the experience and going through those defensive battles that we had last year, we should put ourselves in good position to at least hang around during the league race.
We're definitely going to come out every game and compete. Dakota and the Chips and all those teams in our league are like really good, and we just hope to compete with them every game.
Anytime you have the success that Dakota's had, it's got to go through them, obviously. No matter who's gone or who's back, they've developed that culture of winning, and in the past we have as well, as Chip Valley has, as Ike has. I think overall, one of the key things going down the stretch, and you start jockeying for a position in the league, will be defending home court. And that's something we're going to really try to do better of this year. When you talk about those other teams, those teams have become accustomed to the MAC Red battles, and anytime it's a new season, anytime you get into this league, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And we think that we hope that we're in contention, and I also know that there's a lot of other teams out there in our league that are thinking the same thing. So we're excited to get going with the league play. We know it's going to be a grind. We've kind of prepped our schedule on the front end to help us get ready for that grind, and hopefully when the dust settles, like I said, we're in contention.
All right, here's LCN's schedule. We open up with the Dave Jackson Tip-Off Classic against Lance Cruz on December 9th. After a trip to Ohio, the Crusader Classic is on the 27th against Anchor Bay. Then the new year starts with 3 league games against Ike, Stevenson, and Dakota on January 19th. 3 straight road games follow against Chippewa Valley, Ike, and Stevenson on January 30th. And Grosse Pointe South at home on February 2nd. Dakota again on the 6th, and Chippewa Valley on the 9th. Road game against Grosse Pointe South before the MAC tournament begins on the 15th. And they close out the regular season on the road against Lance Cruz on February 28th. Well, Brad, when we take a look at Lance Cruz North, they've got some returning players, and that's going to help them, as you heard. And experience goes a long way a lot of times in the MAC Red.
Yeah, we talked about Dakota in our previous segment. We talked about all the losses that they suffered in terms of players graduating and transferring. But when you look at LCN, it's the players that are coming back. You got Blake Daniels coming back, Tyreek Harris, Miles McCaney, Mekhi Johnson, Chris Williams, all of these guys that have that varsity experience. And because of that, you might want to slot them in as maybe being the favorites in the MAC Red this season.
They're definitely going to be one of the teams that is going to be up there. They have the size. When you say you got Blake Daniels in the post, Stanton as well has got some size down there. They're going to be one of the taller teams in the MAC Red. And last couple of years you couldn't say that because Dakota had all the height at their school. But Lance Cruz North has got some shooters. They've got the point guards, as Coach Seletsky mentioned. They've got distributors, guys that can get the ball to the outside shooters, and that can help them.
Well, and their style of play kind of is perfect for MAC Red, that kind of grinded out style. They like to bang down low. They got some of those bruisers down there as well. So in terms of playing defense, you gotta like the LCN team. That's one of the things that Coach Seletsky is really kind of focused on for his tenure there is playing defense, creating turnovers, creating mismatches. They're well coached and should be right in the mix once again.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we have 2 more schools to take a look at in the Red, Chippewa Valley and Eisenhower. Don't go away.
Welcome. The law of tangents is a statement about the relationship between the tangents of two angles. Hey, phone's down.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, I'm Jordan Peele. I'm usually trying way too hard to be funny. Well, right now I'm going to be completely serious with you. Online bullying is a toxic side effect of modern technology. No one's immune to it. Not you, not me, nobody. But there's a way we can fix it. This emoji in the symbol section of your phone's emoji keyboard. Use it when you see bullying online to say, I see what you're doing, not cool, definitely not funny. And I know what funny is. I coined the phrase wordness to the turdness. So join me and become a witness. When you see bullying online, use this emoji to do something. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org.
Welcome back to the 2017-2018 Mac Red Boys Basketball Preview Show. I'm Jason Burnt along with Brad Fetters. And Brad, we've already covered two schools now here in the Mac Red Preview and a couple teams that we don't get a chance to cover, but we definitely have to talk about are Stevenson and Grosse Pointe South. Reason being, last year, their first year in the Red, they made some noise. They finished second and third in the league.
Yeah, starting out with Grosse Pointe South, they ended up sweeping L'Anse Creuse North and Chippewa Valley. That's one way to make some noise in the MAC Red, and they're going to find out a lot about their team come December 12th, a matchup with New Haven and Romeo Weems, who could possibly be one of the best players in the state of Michigan. But Grosse Pointe South, 31 miles away from Eisenhower, so it's going to be tough, those travel schedules seemingly all season long. As for Sterling Heights, Stevenson, winners of back-to-back MAC white titles a couple seasons ago, making that move up to the MAC Red. Losers of 5 out of their last 6, so that obviously left a bad taste in their mouth from last season and hopefully turning that around this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a big year for both of those schools because we had mentioned every 2 years the MAC looks at realignment and has options of where they want to go. And those 4 teams, Dakota, LCN, Chip, and Ike, pretty much are locks to stay in the MAC Red. So you look at the other 2 schools. Well, Stevenson, based on enrollment and how local they are and kind of rivalries with the other schools, that makes sense. But Grosse Pointe South is one of those schools that you mentioned, based on geography, they could be the first one out, not necessarily because of record, because maybe they want to put somebody else up there that's closer in proximity and maybe closer in enrollment to those other schools. Of course, last year Romeo dropped out of the Red and moved down, so that could be an option. All right, next up in our preview, the Chippewa Valley Big Reds. They struggled last year, finishing 10-13 overall with a 2-8 record in the Red. They have some athletes returning and hope they can help the Big Reds have a bounce-back season.
Optimistic, excited, just, getting back into the flow of things, and you know, at this time of year, everybody's upbeat and thinking great things can happen, and we think that can happen for us. So we're looking forward to it. We're athletic, we're quick. I think we have a lot of pretty good shooters. pretty good athletes. So I think we're not exceptionally large size-wise, but we've got last year we were inexperienced. We didn't cry about it. We didn't make any excuses. We still expect to come out and compete, which we didn't do very well for quite a while. And late in the year though, we were rolling around pretty good and win the district and end up beating the champion of the white in the district final. So we were very proud of our finish, and we're coming back now, with probably a little more confidence, feeling good about ourselves, feeling that we can compete.
Definitely win the district again. I mean, won it last year. I think we can definitely repeat, go to the regionals, compete again. So I think we can do that again for sure.
Two seniors that have been 3-year players for us, Delano Woods and Devin Goodwin. This is their third year, so they know what we're doing. They know what we expect, and they've survived 2 years of it, so they're ready for a third. And we, then senior-wise, got other seniors still. Dennis Posius is, he had a great JV year 2 years ago, and he struggled mightily last year on the varsity. Didn't make his shots. We're hoping that turns itself back around, and if he was a great JV player. Hope he could come out and be a really good varsity player. We got a little addition, Cardell Snorton. Was here as a sophomore, and he tore his ACL last year, and he has been very impressive. His defensive ability and his just hustle and everything he does is very, very going to help us. There's no doubt about it. He's a great kid. And then we got a couple post guys. Alan Whaley, he actually transferred over here a year ago from Clintondale and sat the bench for us, and he's a really good kid, really fun to have on the team. And he's molding into a pretty decent, post player. And then Mac Tokarski's was on the team last year, and he's a post player that, it's a good hustler and stuff like that.
Our biggest strength is probably our speed. We're not really big in size, as you can tell right now, but most of our guys are pretty quick. We can run the court really well.
When things are going good, I always tell them you work harder. When things are going bad, you work harder. Okay, and last year we kept working. It been easy to fold our tent and get the baseballs out and track shoes and get ready for spring season, but our reward, fortunately, was to walk away with a district title and an opportunity to play in the regionals, and so that's why every practice, every day, you're looking to get better. Okay, you're not even when you're bad, there's brighter days ahead, and I always tell them some of your high moments in sports are right around from your lowest lows. And we had some low lows last year, but then we also had some high highs. So hopefully this year we'll be a little more on the high side. So the funny thing about it is we're all the team right now, and sometime in February, late February, we'll know who the pretenders are and who the real deal is. So it's going to be fun. There's a bunch of competitive teams out there, and we look forward to the competition.
Here's the schedule for Chippewa Valley. They open up on the road on December 5th against Utica Ford, followed by the home opener on the 12th. Port Huron Northern on the 15th, followed by Clintondale on December 27th. The new year starts with a game against Grosse Pointe North, followed by league play against Dakota on January 9th. Grosse Pointe South on the 12th, followed by a home matchup with Eisenhower on the 16th. After a road game against Stevenson, they have 3 in a row at home against L'Anse Creuse North, Dakota, and Grosse Pointe South on January 30th. Second go-around with Ike, Stevenson, and L'Anse Creuse North on February 9th. Then the MAC tournament begins on the 15th. They wrap up the regular season at home against Lincoln on February 27th. All right, Brad, when we take a look at Chippewa Valley, they always seemingly have great athletes and are a competitive team. Last year, they were down. A couple teams jumped over them, including Grosse Pointe South, new to the red. What do they got to do to kind of get back in the mix this year?
Well, obviously a really disappointing way to finish the MAC Red season with that 2-8 record. But you talk about athletes, you got to talk about Delano Woods. He's a third-year guy playing for the varsity level now, and is really going to be the go-to guy, I think, in terms of offense at Chippewa Valley. And They just have to really kind of build on the way last season finished. This is a team that, don't forget, won a district championship last year and ended up winning 6 of their last 8 to finish the year. So hopefully, I know it's a long break, but hopefully carry some of that momentum into play this season, and they should.
And Coach Voss obviously has been coaching there forever, and he always has his teams ready to play. But, with rivalry games like Dakota and L'Anse Creuse North, and we're going to see a lot of those matchups this year. We talk about these teams individually, but how close are a lot of these teams in the red, including Chippewa Valley, who seemingly can match up with anybody?
Well, if you're handicapping it and you look at it as a horse race, that thoroughbred up top, Dakota, the Secretariat, right, who won the Triple Crown, the back-to-back MAC Red titles, that Secretariat's not there anymore. So in terms of in the mix, I think this is a wide-open race as we have seen in quite some time.
Well, Brett, another team that's going to be looking to compete is the next team in our preview, the Eisenhower Eagles. They finished a game under 500 last year at 10-11, but bring in first-year head coach Tom Antishan. Formerly the JV coach at Ike, he brings experience and familiarity to the varsity team. With a talented group he's inherited, he's thrilled to be in this position.
Very excited here. Eisenhower is a good tradition of basketball and great programs run by Swessinger and Lemley in the most recent years, and I'm excited to take charge and see if I can keep up to their standards. Transition's been good. I had good participation over the summer. Kids were coming out, and they all know me in school, so they stop by and see me in school. It's been great. Transition's been easy. Still learning a little bit at this level of working with them and the timings and things like that, but all in all, pretty good.
A lot of us have played with him before, him being the JV coach before. So him coming up, his philosophy is, hard work and, focus on defense first and really just be that scrappy team, that team that's going to compete, fight hard, and win the close games.
We got some shooters, we got some pieces, I think. I'm excited to have Henry Janeway come out. Candela, I can't think enough of him. He's a good leader of this team and handles the ball well and should be a great player this year. Krempa shoots the ball well, and I think one of our most improved players is Garrett Robson. Just his improvement since last year that I've noticed from his first varsity season to this varsity season so far has been excellent. So excited about that. Marnin's been really good all summer and fall as well.
Us 5 that are going to be starting this year, we've played with each other since 7th and 8th grade, so we've always played travel together, and I think we all work good together and work the ball around good.
We got a lot of good talent on this team, a lot of good younger players as well. Hopefully looking to win the MAC, that's our goal.
There's not a team in the MAC Red who isn't well coached. The MAC Red's a tough place to play day in and day out. I know that stretch of games from our first league games before Christmas till mid-February or so it's going to be a tough stretch, but we're ready for the challenge. Our kids are going to play hard, I can promise you that. Well, I want to compete, as any coach would want to, day in and day out. I want practices, the intensity level in practices to be up all the time. I want kids who want to buy into the program, who want to be here, who want to play hard, and I think I've got a good group right now that's doing that. So I want to compete. I think we can compete in the MAC Red, and we deserve to be here, and we'll see what happens on the court.
All right, here's Eisenhower's schedule. They open up with 2 road games beginning on December 5th against Troy Athens, followed by Romeo. December 12th at home against Utica Ford. League matchup against Stevenson on the 19th. And the new year begins with a game against Rochester Adams on January 3rd. Then the grind of league play continues with LCN on the 9th. Home against Dakota, then 3 against Chippewa Valley, Grosse Pointe South, and Stevenson on the 23rd. Second go around with LCN at home on the 25th. Then Dakota on the road on the 30th. 2 more league games against Chippewa and Grosse Pointe South on February 6th. Then they have 1 more game against Milford before the MAC tournament begins on February 15th. They close out at home with Luther North on February 27th. All right, Brad, when we look at Eisenhower, every single year, we never give them maybe enough credit as being maybe one of the favorites, but every time we see them getting those games against L'Anse Creuse North and Dakota and Chippewa Valley, they are a scrappy team, and they've got a lot of shooters, which often keeps them in games.
Yeah, they like to play at a frantic pace, getting up and down the floor, and they typically have a bunch of jump shooters on that team. They don't really have a lot of size again this season, but guys that can really knock down the three, and that's a big weapon to have in your back pocket because that's a game changer. When you got guys that can knock down threes, you can really eliminate some of those deficits, those big deficits that you find yourself in quickly.
Yeah, Coach Antition comes up, as I mentioned. You heard from the JV a year ago. Really, there's not going to be much change there, I don't anticipate, because a couple of the players even mentioned he instilled a lot of the offense that they're running, even from the JV level, and now he comes up to the varsity level. I think the big thing for him will be kind of making that transition to when the games start getting played and kind of getting in that MAC red grind. And Coach Voss at Chippewa Valley often mentions, you don't really know until you get in there what it's really like to play in the MAC red.
Yeah, trial by fire, so to speak, right? And this is an Eisenhower team that brings back about half of their roster to this season. We're going to have to find a brand new backcourt, new voice in the huddle this year, but shouldn't have really much of a drop-off.
Yeah, should be a fun year for Eisenhower as well as a lot of these teams. But we get to this point of the show now, Brad, where you and I can have a little fun.
Prediction time.
Prediction time. We'll start off. I'll let you go first. Who do you think is going to be maybe the front runner this year?
Well, I think obviously we talked about it. L'Anse Creuse North bringing back all of that talent, that varsity talent. We just got done talking about it, right? The MAC Red. It's a different caliber of basketball, and I think with those guys having that varsity experience, you have to put the Crusaders probably at top in terms of MAC Red play.
Yeah, not knowing too much about a lot of the underclassmen that we haven't got a chance to see yet, and it's early. But, you might look at a sleeper team like a Grosse Pointe South that has some pieces coming back, and they finished second in the league last year. They could be a sleeper. But you might want to go with Dakota. Even though they lost those pieces, we've seen them. They have a couple guys coming back. They're going to be in the mix, I believe. And like Coach Seletsky at LCN said, it still has to go through them. So I would maybe lean towards them. And they're the champ. The old saying, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So I'll stick with Dakota. Sleeper team. Who would you?
Sleeper team. I like Sterling Heights Stevenson. I mean, obviously they got the job done in the MAC White, earned that promotion to the MAC Red. They bring some talent back. They have a 6'5" power forward in Deshaun Calloway, a point guard in Kyle Long. So that's a Sterling Heights Stevenson team that really could be in the mix in the MAC Red and would be my sleeper.
Sleeper for me would probably be Eisenhower. We just saw them a moment ago, but new head coach and not a lot of veteran experience coming back, but they've got shooters, and that always can scare teams because we've seen games where Eisenhower's seemingly has been out of it and will knock down 3 or 4 straight triples and be right back in the ball game. So they're a scrappy team that I think can maybe upset some teams this year, and they would be maybe my sleeper for the MAC Red.
Good pick.
But Brad, I thank you for coming in.
Pleasure's always.
Kind of joining me. We're going to have a lot of games this year on MTGA, and it'll be a lot of fun. But we thank you for joining us for the MAC Red Boys Basketball Preview Show. If you missed any part of it, you can also watch all of our content online by going to www.macomb-mi.gov. There you will find a link to our MTGA YouTube channel, which is also right there on your screen. Special thanks goes out to all the coaches and players who allowed us to visit their practices again this year. We wish them the best of luck in the upcoming season. For the rest of the crew here at Macomb Township Government Access, I'm Jason Burt and Brad Fetters. Thank you once again for watching. So long.